Hey bag maker, today I'm going to be talking about spray starching your fabric for bag making, new Tula Pink fabric and webbing that we've added to the shop, Wendy Williams quilt patterns. On tonight's Bag Lab, I'll be showing sneak peeks of my 4 upcoming new sewing patterns, and there's a great giveaway at the end. I'm Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness. Thanks for joining me for Sewcial Sunday, my monthly sewing chat. Hey everyone, happy Sunday and welcome to Sewcial Sunday. Thanks so much for joining me for the show. I'm super excited, especially for tonight, new pattern sneak peeks. I see Susan's watching from New Zealand, Sandy's watching from Arizona, and hey Glenda, thanks everyone for tuning in. So my usual spam reminder, if you're watching over on Facebook and you receive a private message with a logo that looks just like my Sew Sweetness logo, usually they're asking for information like credit card to claim a prize, address, or phone number. Please report or block that. We don't send private messages over Facebook. And if you're watching over on YouTube and you've left a comment on the show and you see a reply to your comment, again, they're usually using our Sew Sweetness logo. Sometimes in the subject line they have a phone number, and again, they're often asking for credit card information, address. Sometimes they ask you to click on a link. Please report or block that as well. I always announce the giveaway winner's name verbally on the show, and we have the winner's name also entered into the description of tonight's show as well. And everything that I talk about during Sewcial Sunday are things that I've purchased myself, so these are not things that I'm getting paid to talk to you about, but just cool things that I found that I'd like to share with you. And everything that I'm scheduled to talk about I link to in the description, so if you're interested in finding out more about any of the books, fabrics, notions, or projects that I talk about during Sewcial Sunday, just check that link in the description and you can find out more information there. So I was cutting out some fabric the other day for one of the videos that we filmed, and I thought I wanted to talk to you tonight about using spray starch to prepare your fabric for cutting out for your pattern pieces. So I did a little test, and granted, this is not, I would not consider this scientific data, as I did not replicate this, say, 100 times. I just did it a couple times, but I have a couple little samples that I wanted to show you what I did. So Danny's going to switch to the overhead camera. I cut out all of my pieces using this acrylic ruler. It's a 12.5 by 12.5 inch ruler, and I wanted to show you my 2 pieces, and then I'll share with you how I use spray starch for cutting out for a bag. All right, so my first piece right here, I took a yard of fabric, I spray starched it, pressed it with my iron, and then when it was cooled, I cut out my 12.5 inch square using my rotary cutter on top of my cutting mat. So I'm going to put the ruler on top of the fabric. Danny, if you wouldn't mind zooming in. I think you can probably see the fabric is same size as the ruler. Let me slide it up so you can see the bottom as well. Visually, it looks to be that the fabric is the same size as the ruler, which is the 12.5 by 12.5. Now I'm going to pull out a second piece. For this piece, what I did was Dan, you can zoom back out. What I did for this piece is I just cut out, again, using my ruler and rotary cutter. After cutting it out, I ironed the piece, and I'm going to lay the ruler on top. Danny, if you wouldn't mind zooming in. I'll push this up so you can see where the difference is. Over here, there's some overhang of the ruler past the edge of the fabric. And on this side, the fabric's overhanging past the ruler. If I try to slide it over, I can't get it even. So definitely the fabric is either shrunk or shifted during the pressing process for this. So what does this mean? So you may not have any problems if you've used this method and started constructing your bag. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up on today's show is for one of my new patterns. Dan, if you wouldn't mind zooming out. One of my new patterns has some long rectangle pieces like this, and especially when you're getting into longer and or thinner pieces, Any bit of variation can affect the finished length of the piece, and in my patterns, sometimes that's important as far as pieces fitting together. And so let me do a really quick demo showing how I spray starch my fabric. Obviously there's, I'm sure, different methods out there, but this is just what I do. And I like using my misting bottle. I've got some Best Press starch spray in here, some other brands that you can try. Also, Silk makes a spray called Flatter. And I generally like using the unscented just because, especially if I'm making something for a gift, sometimes having unscented is not a bad idea. And I know I have a scrap of fabric over here, but I generally, if I'm spray starching, especially if I'm making something that'll be a bag or a larger project, I'll just go ahead and spray starch the whole yard. I might not need to use the whole yard, but at least it gives me some options for cutting out my pieces or fussy cutting. And I'll just keep pressing until all the wet spots have been dried. And then I'll make sure the piece of fabric is dried completely before I start cutting out my fabric pieces. And then this way, if you spray starch your whole yard of fabric, you potentially don't have to iron your piece after you cut it at all. Okay, so I know that was a quick little tip, but I think it may help with some accuracy for cutting out your pieces for a bag. And I've got a link in the description for Best Press in case you're not familiar with that and would like to try it out. And also, if you would like to check out this misting bottle, I actually buy the Best Press in the gallons so that I can just refill my little misting bottle, but it's also available in smaller bottles as well that have a spray nozzle. So I have a question for you. Let me know in the comments. What is your ironing process like? Do you normally iron your fabric, then cut your pieces? Do you just like to cut your pieces from a freshly purchased yard of fabric and then cut everything out and attach to interfacing? Let me know in the comments what your pressing process is like. Do you like to use steam on your iron? Do you like to use Best Press? Do you just like to use the water in your iron? Let me know what your ironing process is like in the comments. All right, so I guess one of my favorite bags in the shop is the Superbloom Tote. Amy Hutton made me this fantastic version using cork and a bunch of different special trims. Actually, Danny, if you wouldn't mind switching to that camera. As you can see, Amy used some cord in the zipper pulls. The zipper tape coordinates with the orange in the fabric. Amy also did contrasting top stitching with sort of a peachy orange thread, which is super brave, and I love that. Brave just because, you know, sometimes stitching is not exactly straight, or at least my stitching isn't always straight, so you definitely can really see the straightness of the stitching when you use a contrasting thread. Amy also used webbing on the other side of the cork handles, and she used some really great looking strap ends as well as rivets. What else is going on with this bag? I just think it's a super special bag. Let me open it up so you can see the inside. And Danny, I'll have you switch back to the front camera, I think. All right, so I left some of these, I don't know if these are going to show up well on the camera. I left some of these tissue paper on the zipper, the ends of the zipper. Amy had the tissue taped to and covering all the bits of the bag that had any metal, so any bits with hardware, the zipper pulls, she covered those with the tissue and put a little bit of a tape on there so it protected the metal during shipping. And I also neglected to share, she's got a little handmade tag on the front that was also had a clear film over the front of it to protect that. And I just think she did an amazing job. I like all the different features. Danny, would you mind switching, I think, to the overhead possibly? Amy put a zipper overlay on one side. I have actually a free tutorial for adding a zipper lay to your project. You can find that on my YouTube channel by just typing in zipper overlay. And then on the other side, she added some slip pockets with some rivets at the top edge of each section of the slip pockets, and her little tag over here says, "You look really pretty today." It's the pink tag. I know it'll be hard to read on the camera, but I thought it was just lots of nice little touches on this bag. Amy's website is Bedhog Shop in case you'd like to check out her shop. And again, love this Superbloom tote. I know this is a really popular bag on social media. I see a lot of people in our Facebook group making the Superbloom tote, and I just love it. I just love all the different colors. I think she did an amazing job. Bottom is also cork with some orange top stitching on that as well. So Amy, amazing job, and I love all the special little details. We also have some new Tula Pink webbing in the shop. This is 1-inch wide webbing. I don't know, Danny, if you want to switch to the overhead camera possibly. So even though it's webbing, it's kind of similar to seatbelt webbing. It's nice, really nice and smooth and not rough at all. The sides are not rough, which sometimes nylon webbing can be. But this is nice and smooth. Great Tula Pink colors. The rainbow matches her solids, and this would just go with a lot of different Tula Pink fabrics. We have this available by the yard in the shop. And then some new Tula Pink fabrics from her reprint of Tabby Road. So we've got 2 different backpacks in the shop. This first one has giant sized kitties with some cat food tins over here. Love the background color. Love all the colors that she's chosen for this particular line of fabric. And then the second backpack we have available, the cats are a little bit smaller, so I'll leave the pink one out just so you can see the scale difference. So the cats are a little bit smaller in the aqua. And then I decided to pair it with this particular fabric for the lining. So I really love this one, rainbow color. Actually, this would be great for an exterior as well, but we've got both of these backpacks in the shop right now. Can't wait to make something with this. I think especially the pink version would be great for a really large bag. Maybe, actually would be great in a Superbloom tote just because the cats are so large, would fit right in the middle of the bag in between the handles. But I've got a link in the description for both of these backpacks, as well as the different the striped webbing, and we also have the previous Tula Pink webbings in 1-inch size and 1.5-inch size, and those are striped, as well as we have some solids as well. Danny and I this summer have started seeing some movies at the movie theater. It was actually Danny's idea. We got the movies near us, the theater is called AMC, and so they have they call it A-list pass. So for $19.95 a month, you can see up to 3 movies a week. We don't have plans to see 3 movies a week, but we thought it would be nice to see 1 movie a week. And so far we've seen, I wrote down the movies we've seen so far this summer using our pass. We saw The Bike Riders, which was based on a book written in the 60s. Liked that one a lot. We took Val to see Despicable Me. Danny and I saw, well, with the kids, Deadpool and Wolverine. Danny, what'd you think about that movie?
I loved it.
And we also saw Horizon, which was a Western themed movie. So this week we're going to see, what was that movie called? It Ends With Us, starring Blake Lively. So we kind of like doing this movie pass idea because we go out to dinner beforehand, then go to the movies. I started bringing one of my quilts just because the first movie we saw I was freezing even though I had a sweatshirt on and pants. So I bring a quilt, I get all cozied up. We have some popcorn, and we just have a good time. So I'm really glad we did that with the movie pass. Great idea, Danny. I have a question for you. Let me know in the comments. What is your favorite movie? Let me know. It could be a current-ish movie. Could be an older movie. I just watched over the weekend 2 documentaries that were on HBO Max. One was about Elizabeth Taylor, and one was about Faye Dunaway. I really like documentaries, so I found those both very interesting. But anyway, let me know what your favorite movie is. All right. Well, I kind of have multiple books to share with you tonight, and also some quilt patterns. So I'm going to have Danny switch to the overhead camera. a variety of different books and patterns, and all of these are linked to in the description. So I bought these earlier this year. The pattern designer is Wendy Williams, and actually I think I found these through a Facebook ad. So these were advertised as Block of the Month programs, and so I picked up 3 different ones. I liked this one because of the stars and the New York Beauty. This one I liked because I just thought it was, I don't know, I just thought it was interesting with the stars and the sort of the stripes going through diagonally. And this one was my favorite of the 3. I just really liked, I don't know, it just looks a little off-kilter. I like the solids. Probably make this one first, but I've linked to these patterns in the description if you're interested in those. And I also picked up, I'm always looking for new cookbooks, and I kind of came about these by way of my Disney books, just because the author Erin McKenna has a bakery in Disney. So these books are, the recipes in the books are mostly vegan, gluten-free. A lot of them are sugar-free, and she has 3 different ones. So I got all 3, and I'm glad I did, because there's different recipes in each. This one's cupcakes, desserts, sweet stuff. These are donuts and kind of more classic recipes, like, well, the snickerdoodles was advertised on the cover. German chocolate cake, things like that. And then there's one on breads. So I thought they were all great. Can't wait to try them. I'm looking forward to using some ingredients that are not as familiar to me, but I don't need to eat gluten-free, but I thought I would like to. And also the vegan recipes and the mostly sugar-free recipes really appeal to me. So really looking forward to trying these. And Danny's going to put a picture up on the screen. Your fiction recommendation for this month is a book called The Sister's Chase. This is a fiction book about 2 girls who are orphaned when their mother passes away, and there's some definitely unexpected things that happen along the way, and I really enjoyed this book. I've got a link in the description to the quilt patterns, the cookbooks, and the fiction book for this month, The Sister's Chase, in case you're interested in checking any of those out. And let me see. All right, Danny, are you ready?
What are we ready for?
Bag Lab. Well, sort of Bag Lab.
Can't do it.
You're not going to do it? Okay. All right, so I'm really excited.
We're interrupting the show for a special report, because now it is time for Bag Lab.
I'm super excited to share with you my 4 newest sewing patterns. The patterns will be out on August 23rd. We're just wrapping up the 4th video this upcoming week, and I'm going to start with the project that I spent the most time on. This particular project, I'm going to have Danny put a picture up on the screen first of the Dogwood pouches. This is a pouch pattern. It's got 10 different sizes of pouches. You can see all the sizes represented here. And this pattern took me the longest to draft. I would say at least 3 weeks just drafting the pattern pieces. I'm very proud of myself for sticking with it, because definitely I've never spent that long drafting pattern pieces. And I did a lot of tinkering. Like, I'd change a pattern piece, I'd make a little prototype, then I'd make it again and change the pattern pieces. So lots of time spent tinkering with the pattern pieces, but I think my favorite part of this particular pattern is, actually, Danny, if you wouldn't mind switching to that camera. My favorite part of this pattern is that the ends sort of fold up, and all 10 pouches are assembled in the same manner with different widths of the pouch and different heights of this little folded end triangle. I'll just call it a triangle because it is. And another interesting thing about this particular pattern is that all of the lining pieces are completely different than the exterior. I wanted to eliminate the bulk in the bottom corners that this little triangle makes in the exterior. So the lining piece actually does not look anything like the exterior. It looks completely different. There's a little tab of fabric on one end, and There's no tab of fabric on the opposite end, just so that your zipper can open wide, because if there was a little fabric tab, and I tried to make one like this as well, with a fabric tab on both sides, and then the zipper just doesn't open as wide, which might not matter for some of the bigger sizes, but I actually have a tiny size. Actually, one of my pattern testers gave me this idea to make one for a very small item like chapsticks or lipsticks or something like that. So you'll definitely need the zipper to open all the way from one end so that you can get inside this teeny tiny pouch. Actually, 2 of the new patterns use either fusible fleece or Pellon Thermolam for the outside. This is one of them, and there's another one coming up later on that uses either of those. So 2 of the new patterns do not use foam interfacing. I tried to mix it up a little bit with as far as the interfacings go. And here's the biggest size of this new pattern. I made all the initial pouches in sort of, this is fabric by Juicy Juice. I wanted it to look more of a solid on the outside, just so you could clearly see the triangle, but I did make one in the print fabric, which was this one right here, with some really great dog fabric that I had in my stash. Let me see, let me pull out some of the other sizes. I tried to calculate different sizes, different heights. This one, this yellow one over here, this one's the widest one, as you can see the difference between the size and the 2 different triangles. And I think because I decided to make all the pouches, I wanted them all to still look either like a square or a rectangle from the front, which really, that's what tripped me up as far as drafting the pattern pieces, just because once you start folding up this little bottom triangle, it really changes the shape of the pouch. So this one's the tallest one. I'm not sure. I feel like this one's probably my favorite size. Just, I don't know. I just like that, the size of that one. But as you can see, all the different sizes gives lots of different options. The pouches used a number 3 zipper. I used a zipper by the yard. You can also use a store-bought zipper, but I found out that 3 yards of number 3 zipper by the yard will make one of each of the sizes, so that's pretty cool. And obviously you'll need 10 different zipper pulls. But again, you don't have to use zipper by the yard. All the measurements for the zippers are in the pattern, just because the zippers are cut to a certain length. And I feel like this is just relatively easy to sew and makes a really quick gift. I feel like this is great for all sewing levels, just because there's not a lot of steps to this particular pattern. And of course, we filmed a video for this one as well. And oh, by the way, when I'm showing the new projects, if you have any questions, feel free to type your questions in the comments, and Danny will try to look out for as many of your questions to add them to the queue. I'll answer some questions. Actually, Danny, should I answer questions now or later on?
As they come, I think.
Okay. Tracy wanted to know, can you make them with cork or faux leather or vinyl? That's a good question, Tracy. So a few of my testers did make them with, I know at least one person made them with cork. A few people made them with vinyl. It's doable, but from their feedback, their tester feedback, I feel like they preferred making the pouches in quilting cotton. But obviously that's completely subjective, so your opinion might be different, but it is doable. Obviously, you won't be pressing the finished bag if you make it with cork or vinyl. You'll just be finger pressing. Were there other questions, Danny? Or Wendy says, I like number 5 zippers. Could you use number 5 zippers? Good question as well, Wendy. So one of my testers, Tracy, experimented. Actually, a couple people made the pouch with a number 5 zipper. What Tracy did with hers was, just because the zipper tape for a number 5 zipper, let me pull out some of my tapes. Danny, if you wouldn't mind switching to the overhead camera. So I've got my number 3 zipper tape here and the number 5 over here. As you can see, number 3 is not as wide as the number 5, or number 4.5. So this tape is about 1/4 of an inch wider. So what Tracy did when she was making her pouches with the number 5 zippers, she kind of overhang the zipper tape over the top edge of the fabric by about 1/8, so just like a little sliver, just to account for the difference. Again, this is subjective. A couple of the testers mentioned that they tried both and they preferred the number 3 just because the number 5 is a little bit thicker. I don't want to say bulkier because I don't think that's the correct word, but
I think you see from this angle too. Look at
I
the
would
size difference.
I would say just because it's also subjective on the number 5 versus the number 3, and in light of this being a really quick project, you might want to just make one in each and see what your personal preference is. My personal preference was the number 3, but you might have a different opinion. Good question, Kyla. Kyla wanted to know, can you use directional fabric on those? Yes, actually this one was directional fabric, and it works just because there's here's the seam on the bottom. So it's basically the front piece and the back piece. So basically you're only cutting 3 pieces from exterior fabric, front, back, and then this tiny little piece of fabric for the zipper area. Carla wanted to know, can you make the taller pouches purses with straps? Yeah, that should be doable. I would suggest adding a little fabric tab a little bit lower than the top edge of the fabric. I'm assuming probably with a D-ring, and then you can add maybe an adjustable strap with swivel clips. I'm pretty sure I have a free video on my YouTube channel how to make either a wrist strap or a side strap, make a pouch into a bag. I'll look for that after the show, and I'll try to add that to the description of the show. Oh, thanks, Michelle. Michelle said I used number 5s on all of mine. Michelle tested. Actually, I think she made one of each size, so thanks for chiming in with that, Michelle. Sharon says, does the inside of the pouch require binding? Oh, that's a good question. Let me show you what the inside looks like. So there's no binding. Let me pull this out. I did top stitch because the opening in the lining is left on the bottom. I did top stitch my opening close. You could also slip stitch the opening, but there's no binding at all in this particular project. Okay, were there any more questions on this one, Danny? Good question, Jamie. I do not recall off the top of my head. I know I talked about during this fabric on a previous episode of Sewcial Sunday. Actually, I still have it in my sewing room. Let me just jump down and grab it really quick. Let's see. The fabric line is called Dogs in the City. The designer is, let me check along the selvage. It was designed for 3 Wishes fabric, and that's about all the information on there. Okay, so again, this is Dogs in the City. All right, Danny, are you ready for the next one? Oh, good question. Angela wanted to know, can you put a zipper pocket in the big pouches? Yeah, sure, that would be actually a really great idea. You could either put it on the exterior or in the lining. Actually, if you decide to put a zipper pocket in the lining, I would recommend, instead of leaving an opening in the bottom of the pouch for turning everything right side out, I would recommend leaving an opening in the bottom of the zipper pocket. And I think, I would say a lot of the sizes would be okay for a zipper pocket, maybe at least half of them. Okay, are we ready for the next pattern? Put some of these to the side. All right, so when Tula Pink's new mini iron came out, it inspired me to design something to put the iron in. And so this one's called the Baptisia Iron Storage Case, and it comes in 2 different sizes. So this one's size mini. I'll open that up so you could see what it looks like on the inside. Mini, and we also have size regular. So size regular will fit your standard size iron. Mini obviously will fit the mini irons. I decided to go with binding only on the bottom of the pouch just because the bottom has foam interfacing, a piece of Decovil Heavy, so it's a bit stronger than just foam interfacing by itself. And I find that a lot of times using binding in certain areas of the project also give it strength and stability. And since some of the irons are 2-3 pounds, I wanted the bottom of the case to be extra sturdy, so that's why we've got binding on the bottom right there. Very easy. In the instructions, I just have you assemble just basically a loop of binding fabric, and it's really easy to just sew that loop of binding to the bottom of the project. What else? There's rivets through the handle. There's a handle on either side of the case, and the first two projects, I feel like they're relatively quick and easy to sew. And then here's what it looks like. Actually, Danny, if you wouldn't mind a top-down view. There's my mini inside the case, and then let me put I'll put my regular iron in, but I've got to unplug it really quick because I had it on just a second ago.
Put the pictures up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Helena made this pattern in both of the sizes. I really love the striped fabric, especially on the regular size case that she made. Okay, so here's my regular iron inside. And I just think it's great, especially if you're taking your iron somewhere to a retreat or sewing with your friends, or in my case, I don't use my mini iron a ton. So I think it's a great idea to have its own little nice storage case so you can put it in your sewing room, prevent it from collecting dust. And yeah, so this is the second of the new patterns. Danny, I'm not sure if there were any questions. Diana says, does it fit the Rowenta travel iron? You know, I don't know if the Rowenta travel iron closer to a traditionally sized iron. I'm actually not sure. What I did for the sizes of these cases is I took a poll in my tester group and I asked them to just measure the sizes of their irons with taking into consideration, actually, because when I first measured my iron, I only measured the actual iron, but usually there's this cord sticking out that makes it either taller or wider. So I had them measure their standard size irons as well as their mini irons, and I went off of the measurements of the biggest iron that they gave me the information for in my little poll in my tester group. So I'm assuming either one of the cases should fit whatever iron you have, unless it's a very uniquely sized iron. Julie says, is the bottom heat proof? The bottom is not heat proof, so you'll want to make sure your iron is unplugged, has time to cool off. I also have a note in the pattern instructions to possibly consider pouring the water out of your iron before you put it in the case, just to prevent, water leaking all over the place. But you definitely want to have the iron cool before you put it inside the case. Sheila says, could you use heat-resistant fabric on the inside of the case? You could. I don't personally know what the effects would be of putting a hot iron inside of a case, even if it's heat-resistant fabric. I just don't know. If anyone watching has any opinions or ideas about that, let me know in the comments. But yeah, my recommendation for this pattern at least is to make sure it's cooled before you put it inside. And Nancy says the iron bag looks like it would fit as a sleep apnea travel bag. Oh, that's an interesting idea. I hadn't considered that. Marianne says, what fabric did you use for the cases for the iron? I don't recall the names of the fabrics. This one I know with the chickadees I purchased from Hawthorne Supply Company. And then this one with the monarch butterflies I purchased on Etsy. I feel like it's an older fabric because I had not seen it before, but I just typed in monarch butterflies in the search and this one came up a few pages deep. Felicia says, answer to the Rowenta question. Oh, it's about the same size. Thank you, Felicia. I really appreciate that. That question was about if the Rowenta would fit. I'm assuming Felicia's comment was it's about the same size as either my standard or my mini. I'm not sure. Letitia says, why no handle on the top? That's a good question. I really considered putting a handle on the top, but I worried that the lid of the fabric would the rest of the bag would kind of bow down under the weight of the iron, and so I decided to put handles on the sides, although if you prefer, you could just very easily put a handle on the top instead. I'd probably consider keeping it out of the seam allowance and just having it either going this way or this way, depending on what you prefer visually.
Next.
All right, let's go through the third pattern now. Let's see, which one should we go with? Actually, I'm going to have Danny put a couple pictures up on the screen, maybe one picture of the compass carpet bag. Sharon made this one. Actually, she made this bag twice, but this is one of the versions that she made. I've had requests over the years for a doctor's bag with a metal frame at the top, and so that's what I was going for with this particular style of bag. Here's one that I made. I used a canvas fabric for my exterior solids, or these are Moda Grunge, which is close to solids, for my accents and the handles, and then the top of the bag opens, and then there's a metal frame on the top. So the metal frame helps the bag open wide. You just pull out the metal frame. It's really quick. So the metal frame goes in at the end of the project. It's got rubber tips on either end, and this goes in very last. So if you need to wash the bag, you can always easily take the metal frame out and then put it back inside the bag after you've finished cleaning it. I really like the accents on the bottom corners. There's a zipper. Let me flip this over. There's a zipper on the inside of the bag, and the bag is turned right side out through the bottom of the opening in this zipper pocket. There's also a slip pocket on the front for small items, maybe your cell phone perhaps. And yeah, this one was another really fun sew and happy to have. Suzanne says, oh, Sarah, you got me. That's such a favorite bag. Oh, I'm glad you like it. It was a really fun sew, honestly. Soap and Girl says that's the one I want to make first. And then Rhonda says, love this doctor bag. You know what? Over the years, I saw doctor bags out there. Thanks, Carol Joy. Carol Joy says my favorite so far. I saw doctor bags out there, and I just didn't know. I just didn't have any ideas for any of them. Yeah, great question. Angela wanted to know, is this the same frame for the chickadee backpack? It is the same frame. Off the top of my head, this one was the 10 and a quarter by 2 3/4, if I'm remembering correctly. Anne says, how does it look closed without the metal frame? Oh, great question. Let me take the other frame out. Winless Original says, I will be making this doctor bag for an ICU nurse. I know she's going to love it. That's a great idea. All right, so this is what it looks like without the metal frame in it, but once it's zipped closed. So still cute, a different look, but I think I like this one as well without the frame. Dee Dee says, I love the metal frame. I used it with a chickadee backpack. I love how it works. Yeah, it's really smooth. I would suggest using for the accents, which by the accents I mean especially over here, I would suggest using a fabric that's a bit more flexible, like a quilting cotton as opposed to a cork fabric, just because this top area gets a lot of open and close action when you're unzipping and zipping up the bag, and I just think it works a little bit better over time having quilting cotton or something similar. Yes, we have the frames in stock right now on the website. I'll add a link to the metal frames in the description of the show after we're done with the show. Gretchen says, you are brilliant at matching fabrics and handles. Thank you. I admit I have a really hard time choosing fabrics, but I feel like this fabric kind of gives off like a vintage looking vibe, which is kind of what I was going for is in regards to the doctor bag. And Julie says, I like the versatile way you could use it, frame or no frame. Yeah, I do agree. It's pretty versatile and completely different look for frame versus no frame. Arnetta says, great bag for knitting projects. And Andrea says, metal frame makes this bag. Yeah, I do agree. It looks great with the metal frame. Danny, would you mind posting Cher's picture one more time?
This is the
The compass, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, again, here's Cher's bag, and I just think it looks fantastic in Rifle Paper Company fabric, and I believe she used wax canvas. That's the brown parts of that particular bag. All right, the last and final new sewing pattern. Let me... There's so much stuff on this table. This one I'm really proud of as well, and it's been some years since I've done like a choose your own adventure type pattern, which I had done in the past with the tutor bag. And this particular backpack is another one of those choose your own adventure patterns. So there's 3 different options on this pattern that you can either add to your backpack or omit depending on how fast you want the project to be sewn and what features you want on it. So option A is this front portion over here, this 3-dimensional front part of the bag. That's option A. Option B is this vertical zipper in the front of the backpack. And option C is another vertical zipper on the back of the backpack, which this is a great option for especially anti-theft if you want to have your wallet and your cell phone in the back of the bag, which will be against your back. If you can decide to leave off all 3 options, and in that case you would just have this portion over here with the zipper and the back part of the bag. That would be the quickest sew by far, but it depends on what kind of features you want in your backpack. Actually, in my opinion, leaving off all 3 options would be great for craft fairs because it would be honestly a quick sew. Danny put together a carousel of some of the pattern testers backpacks just so you can see some of the different options. So here's one made. I think Rebecca made this one with all 3 options, and she used sort of a travel inspired fabric. Fabric was designed by Katerina Rochella. Latoya made one with only the front vertical zipper. So this version is made without that option A, which is the 3-dimensional front pocket. Michelle Tripp made this one in a fabric she'd been hoarding for some time, a black and white type fabric. Tracy made actually 2 of them. This is one of Tracy's that she made just so you can have a side view of the bag, and she used some rainbow webbing. And here's Tracy's second version that she made. I love this one because I feel like the webbing strap really goes with the theme of the backpack. And all of the options are specified in the pattern, and if you're familiar with my patterns, each of the steps has a section. So in each of the sections, I'll let you know if you're making, for example, if you're making option A, you'll be sewing this section. If you're making option B, and so on. I'll also be specifying in the video just to clear out any confusion as you're sewing. Everything will be very specific depending on which options you choose to add to your bag, so you'll know which steps are for you and which steps can you skip depending on if you're omitting any of the options for the backpack. Rhonda says, I like the sling bag, my favorite so far. Thanks so much. And Tam says, great job on the new patterns. I'm very excited about making them. Thank you. Letitia says, great patterns. I like all of them and we'll be getting them all. I really appreciate that. I think Charles says, the Tudor was my first Sew Sweetness bag and I have been hooked ever since. Well, thank you. I really enjoyed making the Tudor bag, and I've always wanted another opportunity to kind of have a choose your own adventure pattern, which I think this sling backpack fits the bill for that. Andrea says, could you make it with 2 straps as a backpack? I don't have it in the instructions, but I think if you were going to make it into 2 straps, you might want to consider having the single strap that unzips down the middle. I guess I'd have to think that through, how that could best be implemented. Michelle Graham a few years ago wrote a pattern hack for a backpack strap just like that unzips down the middle. So you might want to consider thinking about that if you'd like to have the 2 straps, because that will give you both options, the single strap as well as the 2. Kim says, loving all these bags so far. Thank you, Kim. I don't know which one's my favorite. I feel like I spent so much time on the pattern pieces for the pouch that maybe that one's my favorite because it was really a design challenge that I had to conquer. But I feel like there were some questions that I had while I was trying to draft the pattern pieces for this particular bag as well, and I'm glad it came out okay in the end. Christine says, looks like the perfect size sling to try that style. I think this is great for a lot of the testers said they were making this for cruises and vacations and things like that. Sandy says, is there a way on the sling bag to add a lobster clasp to make your zippers more secure for traveling? You could add, I showed it on the live show a few months ago. I forgot the name off the top of my head of the product, but it was a little clip that you can attach to your zippers, so that you can't open them easy, but you would need 2 zippers because it works off of a double pull zipper. I'll try to find that after the show and add that to the description of the show as well. Let me write a note. I apologize. I just don't remember the name of that particular notion. Linda says, your patterns are the best design and the clearest I have ever used. I appreciate that because I read over my instructions a lot. Even when we're filming the video, I'm going over my instructions, making edits while we're filming just to make things as clear as they possibly can. Jeanette says, I've never made a sling pack, but I think it's time to try one. Definitely. I think little backpacks are really big right now. I see people using them all the time, or even backpacks across the chest. Kathleen says, your patterns are the best for instructions. They always turn out very well. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And Ann says, can you use faux leather on the sling bag? Yes. The one that we showed with the brown fabric, that was actually vinyl. Latoya made that one. Danny, is there a way to pop that one up on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to talk and I'll give Danny a minute to pop that one on the screen. That one.
Yep.
Latoya made this one in a brown vinyl. She said in her tester notes that because she was using the vinyl and it was a little bit thicker, she skipped the interfacing for the exterior, which in the pattern instructions, the interfacing for the exterior is either fusible fleece or Pellon Thermolam, which is also a fleece interfacing. So she said she liked it a lot without the interfacing, and again, she used a medium to thicker vinyl for her backpack. BC says you could add 2 D-rings at the top and 2 rings on each side at the bottom to connect straps for a backpack strap. Oh, that's a really good idea. Thank you for that, BC. Great idea. Teresa says, can you show the inside? How tall is the main opening? Good question. So the main opening is, I don't know, Danny, would it make, I'm not sure if it would come up on the other.
This one's probably the best. Your opening, right?
Yeah.
Turn it around.
So the main compartment, which is this one right here, goes up all the way pretty much to the top. And let me show you what the inside looks like. So this part is just fabric. There's no binding on this particular section over here. There is a zipper pocket in the main compartment. And then because it's a backpack and because I opted to use a lighter interfacing because of the fusible fleece, I decided to go with binding just for the back portion of the backpack because I wanted it to hold. Sometimes when I use binding like I did with the iron case, I kind of consider it almost I like to call it like a skeleton. It kind of provides a little bit more structure to wherever it's applied. And because I didn't want it to be necessarily flappier against the wearer's back, I decided to put binding over here. And the binding just goes from this top corner a little bit below, half inch below this top edge. It goes all the way around and it finishes on the other side. So there's no binding along this top edge just because it gets really thick with the webbing attached over here. Diane says, Sarah, your patterns are the easiest bags to sew. Trust me, I've done so many. Well, I do try my hardest to consider
I got a laugh out of this one.
ease of sew. Diane also said that bag sling. Seriously, move over, Vera, and hold my iced tea. That's really great. I love that. Thank you. I do try my hardest, and especially in the videos, I try to think things through while I'm explaining things to put in some extra little tips without it being wordy for no reason in the videos. Nancy says, 2-strap is doable. The simplest with the current size is to use 1-inch webbing, which will shorten the length or make the top a tad wider to accommodate 2 inches. Since the current strap webbing it calls for is 1.5 inches. Thank you for that, Nancy. Nancy made this bag for, I think she said she made one for a vacation. Nancy tested this particular bag. And yes, the webbing is 1.5 inches like Nancy mentioned. So you may need to, if you're doing the 2 1-inch straps, you may consider some sort of modification to make this a little bit wider. August 23rd can't get here soon enough. I agree. We just have one more video to film, and then
the date yet.
I did mention. Yeah, I sure did.
I'll ask you, sorry.
Sorry. The new patterns will be out August 23rd. We still have one more video to film, and I need to get some things ready on the back end of the website. There's a lot of preparation that's involved with making sure when someone makes a purchase that they get their pattern and video in their account. So I'll be working on that next after we finish the video for the backpack, and I'm really super excited with how these came out. I'm glad originally with these pouches, I was just going to go with maybe 3 different sizes, and I'm glad I pushed myself for the 10 sizes because I feel like it's a really versatile pattern with the 2 different sizes in it. And yeah, I'm super, super excited. So these will be out on August 23rd. We'll have a trailer video showing all the features of all the projects on September's live show. That'll be on September 1st. And let me see. Vanessa says, do you think you could do the binding on the outside of the iron bags? I feel like I have to think about that one for a second. I'm sure you could do the binding on the bottom edge. Yeah, I think on the bottom edge it would be possible. Yeah, but let me think on that one, and I'll get back to you, Vanessa. All right, let's get over to Danny's picks of the week, and I think Danny picked Pattern Testers projects from the new patterns.
Yes, I did. Up first is Michelle. I really love the Tula Pink with this, and you can see she pieced the sides of it. Looks so awesome. Nancy made this next one, and great fabric choices. Andrea made this one. I love the bright colors. I'm sorry, this is Andrea's. I apologize for that. This is Shanova's. Looks like she used cork on the straps. Looks great. Mm-hmm. Then we have Vasiliki. Excuse me, what pronunciation of that? Jessica made this set. Beautiful fabrics as well. Sean made this group of... I just loved it. Then we have Sheila's. Another Tula Pink hot specials right there. Angelina made this one. Then we have Michelle for this one. And we have Rebecca made this one. I love the way this one looks.
vinyl. The vinyl looks great.
And we have Sandra, and she opened hers up. You could see it was unzipped, so you could see inside of it. Great job.
And we'll have some more tester photos to share with you on social media later on this month. And let me see. All right, I answered a bunch of questions already. Danny, were there any other questions that were coming through? I'm going to guess no, but in case there were more questions, let me announce the winner of last month's giveaway first. The winner of the giveaway last month made me laugh a little bit because their username over on YouTube was Sara.Stitches. My name also spelled the way my name is spelled, so I thought that was great. Again, the winner for last month is Sara.Stitches, so please email me after the show. My email is sarah@sewsweetness.com. Danny's going to throw my email address up on the screen. Yeah, please email me so that I can get you connected with your prize. And you can also email me anytime if you have any bag making questions, or if you're working on one of my patterns and you have a question, feel free to email me anytime. All right, Danny, were there any more questions coming through, or that was it? All right. One last thing to get to for this month's show is the giveaway. So the giveaway for tonight is a $50 gift certificate to my website, and I have an extra question which will give you a bonus method of entry. The winners are all randomly drawn, and you have until the end of the day this Saturday to leave a comment on the show. All the comments are added together from Facebook and YouTube, and one winner is randomly drawn. And my question is, which new pattern was your favorite? Did you like the Dogwood pouches, the iron storage case, the carpet bag, or was your favorite the Sling backpack? So let me know in the comments which one was your favorite project of the new patterns. Again, the new patterns will be out on August 23rd, and our next live show for Sewcial Sunday will be on the first Sunday of September, which actually happens to be September 1st. So I'll see you again on September 1st. I hope you have a great week and happy sewing. Bye, everybody.